Hello friends, as promised, we are here again with GST course lecture 2. Today we'll discuss the concept of supply under GST. All the earlier laws, taxes were based on some taxable event. Like in the case of excise, it was manufacturing of goods. In the case of service tax, it was provision of services. In the case of VAT and sales tax or GS or VAT, sales tax or central sales tax, it was sales. That was the taxable event. In the case of GST, taxable event is supply of goods. So under GST, the concept of supply has tremendously increased the scope of taxable events, and following would be covered under the supply, and thus GST would be applicable on the same, even though there is no consideration involved. We'll discuss each one of them one by one. So supply without consideration. So following things, there would be no consideration involved. However, since the same are entered either in Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 of GST, uh, it would be considered as supply, and GST would be applicable on the same. The first one is disposal of assets of business where input tax credit has been availed. Now, uh, say there is a multinational company which has purchased a company which was incurring loss for the last some years. Due to that, the company is not in a good position. Uh, so assets are lesser and liabilities are more for that company, since the company was making losses for the few years now. So it would be like the sales consideration for the same may be zero or it may be negligible. However, GST would be applicable on this disposal of business. The reason for the same is that when the assets were purchased or the goods were purchased by such company, ITC must have been claimed by the company, selling company. So before disposing of the business and cancelling the registration, GST Act requires that the company should reverse all those ITC which was availed and pay the same before cancelling the registration. Second is supply undertaken between related person. So if there is a supply between related person, then so GST would be applicable, and we need to be very much careful that even though the transaction value may be less, we need to calculate the fair value as per the valuation rules given under GST and pay GST as per the fair market value and not the transaction value. Next is import of services from a related person. So if we'll take an example that there is a multinational company in Japan, parent company, and one of the subsidiary is in India. Subsidiary company may take certain services like technical know-how, engineering fees, and all engineering services from the parent company. So it would be considered as import of services, and GST would be applicable on the same. Next is agent principal relationship. Now, the business model may be like the manufacturing plant is in Pune. However, Pune, Maharashtra, and uh, but the sales are all over the India. So the company has decided to have their agents all over India. So there may be an agent in Gujarat, in Delhi, in Haryana, Punjab, like so. So now, if from Pune, goods are transferred by the principal to the agent in Gujarat. So ideally, this is not a sale because this is just a transfer of goods from principal to agent. And actual sale would actually occur when agent would sell it to the third party. However, the agent principal relationship is considered to be included uh, in the in as supply. So transfer from agent to principal or principal to agent would be considered as a supply of goods, and thus GST would be applicable on the same. Next is business assets utilized for personal use. Now, suppose there is a partnership firm and there are certain assets, say a TV is purchased for business use, and it has been installed in the office of the partnership firm. Now, due to certain reasons, that TV is uh, uninstalled and taken by one of the partner, and it is being used at his home. Now, in this case, it is a business asset which is being utilized for personal use by the partner. So it would be considered as supply from the partnership firm to that partner, and thus GST would be applicable on the same. Next is interstate stock transfer shall be treated as supply of goods. Now, we'll take an example. Suppose business model is like that. The manufacturing plant is in Pune and it has warehouses all over India to have some business presence there. So the warehouse is in Gujarat, it is in Tamil Nadu, it is in Bangalore, it is in Haryana, it is in Punjab. Now, when finished goods are dispatched from plant to one of the warehouse, say in Gujarat, so it is not a ideally it is not a sale, but for GST purpose, it would be considered as supply, and GST would be applicable on the same. It would be like uh, when GST registration of Pune would be starting from 27 and following with the 10 digits of PAN number. GST registration of Gujarat would be state code of Gujarat, that is 24, and again the same 10 digit of PAN number being PAN number would be common for the company. So even though the PAN number is common for both the GST number, transfer of goods from one state to another would attract GST. So supply without consideration, here all these things are covered under GST. Taxability would be there since it is covered either in Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 of GST as supply, right? So coming again to the previous slide. So we covered this transfer of business assets. Now, an act of refraining, tolerating, or obligating, etc. So now, as per the concept of supply, even if we are not selling anything, we are not transferring anything, but we are referring to sell something, or we are not providing some services due to some agreement between us, between two companies, between two taxable person. There also GST would be applicable since it is considered as supply. We all know that GST is applicable on sales. However, GST is also applicable on barter, exchange, transfer, license, rental, lease, and disposal of goods. Due to the scope of wide scope of supply, wide scope of the term supply. Next is electronic commerce operator. So normally, electronic commerce operators is a type of business where they just make a meeting between the buyer and the seller. They have an app or a site whereby the buyer can select the goods and keep the same into the cart and pay for the same. And the electronic commerce operator would transfer or intimate the order to their registered suppliers. So here the supply is made by the supplier, registered supplier, and it is purchased by the consumer. Electronic commerce operator are just providing the services of meeting the supplier and the consumer. However, under GST, all the electronic commerce operators are covered and they need to deduct TCS also, collect TCS also. So we'll discuss that in coming slides. So all the ECOs like Amazon, Snapdeal, Flipkart, eBay would be covered under GST. All the IT services like design, development, etc. would be covered under GST. Construction services. So this is nothing new. It was also there in service tax that land being an immovable asset, it is not covered under goods and therefore not taxable. However, the building which is made or constructed over the land would be covered under GST, since the contractor is providing service of construction services or construction. Next is transfer of goods, transfer of title in goods. Now, transfer of title in goods is actually sale, but transfer of right in goods is what? That uh, the seller is not giving the title, but it is only giving the right to use the asset, right? So the buyer cannot further sell it off. So in a sense, ideally it is not a sale, but it is covered under the concept of supply, and GST is payable on the same. Import of goods and services. So if any goods or services are imported from out of India, GST would be applicable under reverse charge mechanism. We'll discuss this in length in the coming lecture. Treatment of goods. So here normally what comes is the job work and all. There are various industries where there is a line of actions to be undertaken, or processes to be undertaken before making the final product. Say for example, making a you know making a sari. So for making a sari, first of all you have to manufacture a cloth. Then uh, then there should be coloring, dyeing, printing, finishing, and at the last it would be sold off. So it may be there that it may be so that some of the processes in between may be outsourced to a third party, and the same are not done inside the plant. So the job work is also included in the uh, concept of supply, and GST would be applicable on the job work. Next is land lease, tenancy, or letting out of any building for commerce. So as discussed, land is an immovable property, so not covered under goods. But if there is a lease given on land, then it would be covered under GST. So as of now, we have discussed Schedule 1 and 2, which says that GST is applicable on so much of the transactions. Now there is Schedule 3 also, which is also considered as negative list, which is also said as negative list. It means that here the government has specifically said that these are the transactions which would not attract GST because it is not considered as supply. Okay, so what is not considered as supply? Number one is if there is an exemption given by GST Council in any of its meetings. Second is if it is not exempted in full, there may be an abatement. That, say for example, GST rate applicable on goods or provision of service at the rate of 18%, and now GST Council has notified that there is an abatement of 50% of the same, then GST would be applicable only on the residual 50%, that is 9%. Now, as per Schedule 3, GST is not applicable on services provided by employee to the employer. Now, we'll take an example. Say I am providing services to the employer for whom I am working. So ideally, with the type of coverage of supply, this would also be covered under GST. But as you know, we are also paying income tax on the same our salary. So government says that government has specifically in Schedule 3 provided that services, if it is proved that there is an employer-employee relationship and what is paid as salary to the employee, then GST would not be applicable. Apart from that, if over and above what is written in the engagement letter, gifts up to rupees 50,000 during the year on various occasions like Diwali, New Year, if the gifts are up to rupees 50,000 are paid, GST is not applicable on the same. However, over and above 50,000 gift, which is not mentioned in agreement or the engagement letter, it would be taxable under GST. So the best way to do is to mention anything which is paid to the employee. We need to mention in the engagement letter or the agreement letter. So whatever is written in the engagement letter, it would be part of the salary, and tax and GST would not be applicable on the same. Over and above that, gifts of rupees 50,000 per year can be given by the employer. Now there may be certain litigation areas also, like if free lunch, free car, or parties or foreign trips are provided by the employer to employee, and the same is not written in engagement letter, it may prompt for some litigation. So what we may have to prove is that these are the transactions which were required for business purpose. And the best way to do is that company considers the same as their expenses in the P&L. So this was employer-employee services. Next is there are various services provided by government. So services by court and tribunal, services of government, government, central, state government, and local authority, and statutory duty to be performed by government. These are not covered under supply and thus not taxable. There is an exception to it, that is services by post offices. So post offices, the services of post offices do attract GST. So thank you so much for your patience hearing. In the next lecture, we would cover composite supply, mixed supply, and registration under GST. Thank you so much.